hands in Hex are not completely random like they are in Magic. Hex uses a modified hyper-geometric distribution to eliminate the 10% most resource light hands and 5% most resource dense hands that your deck could generate. So basically everyone in Hex mulligans 15% less than they do compared to Magic. This Fate Weave resource, has a mechanic attached to it called Fate Weave that's very powerful as well, that reduces variance. Hey, the red or Reebok Dragonite with the brand new $4.99 a month subscription. Thank you very much and welcome. I really appreciate that. Subs are the best way you can support my content here, so welcome, welcome, welcome. So the Fate Weave resource is basically a way to kind of put some card selection into our deck. So when I play out Sapphire Ice here, I get to make a decision. I get to choose whether or not I want to draw a resource or a non-resource. I'm going to go ahead and stack a non-resource on top of my deck because I already have my first 5 shard drops laid out here, which is nice. If you're someone who's played a lot of other digital card games, Hex does a lot of things refreshingly differently from those two. Like if you're a competitive player, Hex has competitive tournaments that you can play every single weekend. And by competitive tournaments, I don't just mean like you're playing on a ladder for like in-game prizes like a lot of people mean when they say competitive tournaments in the games that they play. Hex has $1,000 cash tournaments that you can play from your home every single weekend. The standard constructed tournament has a $7 entry fee, and the sealed tournament has a $15 entry fee. That includes packs that you get to keep. Hex also has a full buy, sell, trade secondary market. So if you're someone that's into playing finance games, or if you're just someone like me that hates opening packs and then like the whole dusting process, I find that really obnoxious. I want to just like get the cards that I want to get. I want to fill a shopping cart and hit checkout and give someone my money and get the cards that I want to play with. Hex enables you to do that. So looks like opponent's playing something similar to the Turbo PA deck that we played on stream a little bit here. Hey, Raging Yoshi, I love the Ruby Sapphire deck. It's everything I want to do in card games. Me too, Raging Yoshi. Thank you for the 3-month resubscription. I really appreciate that. So the deck that we're playing right now is a Draw Go control deck. The only card in my main deck that is not a quick card that I can play on my opponent's turn is Primordial Sabretooth, and this is just a really powerful piece of spot removal. So it's a 5/4 troop for 7, or I can pay 2, reveal it from my hand and shuffle and put it back into my deck and deal 5 damage to a troop. So basically it's 2-cost spot removal and a top end bomb. No, I would call this a Draw Go control deck. So I'm gonna go ahead and play out Runic Riddles here. No, this is what's his name? Corey Burkhart works on this game. He's probably the biggest name as far as Magic personalities go that work on the game. So Runic Riddles is a card here. When you play it, it's a quick action. We look at the top 2 cards of our deck, and then we put 1 into our hand, and then it has the runic mechanic. So if you looked, it went into a little enchantment here on the board, and then how runic works is the next time you draw a resource, it replays itself. And I drew a shard the following turn, so we got to replay Runic Riddles here. So basically, we get its effect twice, but the second time we get its effect is a little bit delayed. And through the use of the Fate Weave mechanic, we can kind of control a little bit how and when we re-trigger that Fate Weave. Craig got 15th. Awesome. One of the things you'll notice here is that my opponent and I have different portraits. The portraits are not just cosmetic, they're called champions. And what they do is they give you a special champion ability. So my champion here says for 5 charges, we draw 2 cards and then discard a card at random. My opponent's champion says for 4 charges, they get to illuminate 1, which makes a candle or makes their existing candles larger. And the champions are kind of a neat dynamic because they allow you to kind of predict what your opponent might be playing before the game even starts, so you can kind of make educated mulliganing decisions without actually playing any cards out. So this card's a 3/2 flyer for 4. That when it comes into play, if I have more cards in hand than them, they gain 5 health. Or if I have more cards in hand than them, they draw 2 cards. If they have more health than me, or I have more health than them, they gain 5 life. So I have 7 cards in my hand right now. So if this comes into play right now, they're going to get to draw 2 cards. So I really don't want to happen. So I'm going to Discombobulate this, which interrupts their card. Excuse me. And then each of us generates a random card that we can play. So you can see here we have a little interaction going back and forth here. My opponent's chosen to Runebind my Interrupt. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and play this Return to Cinder in response, which kills their thing. But what this ultimately does is it enables me to have the same number of cards in my hand as my opponent. So my opponent doesn't get to draw extra cards with this now. They just get a 3/2 flyer. Most resources at a charge, except for Explicit Charge. So basically, for every resource you play, you gain a charge into your deck. I'm going to go ahead and play... How much is this deck and how long will rough lastly in the standard format? So Hex's standard format, the oldest 2 sets rotate out every even set release, and we just had a rotation. To buy this deck outright card for card with no budget restraints is about $80. If you wanted to make a couple budget replacements, the 2 to 3 copies of Runebind that I'm playing, I think I have 2 in my main and 1 in my sideboard right now. Those are like $6 or $7 a pop. You could replace those with other interrupts. And this deck, I believe to buy outright's about $70 or $80 if you were to buy it from a store. I mentioned Hex's buy, sell, trade secondary market. Hex Primal there. They buy and sell Hex TCG singles and use my code at checkout to save some money there. We're going to play this Nameless Draught out and pass the turn. So Candlelight is the win condition in this deck. So this deals 6 damage to an opposing champion or troop as a quick action. And what it does then is it adds the line of text, Illuminate 1, to every other action I control in my deck. And what Illuminating does is it either makes a new candle or it makes all my other candles larger. Nameless Draught is optional as well. I'm not even sure if that card's good in this deck or not. So I'm going to go ahead and blast my opponent's bird here with the Candlelight. And now, if this resolves, because my opponent could have an interrupt for it, if this resolves, now you'll see the text on all of my cards about $70 to $80 outright. If you have 0 hex cards and you fill a shopping cart, it's somewhere under $100, and you could probably get it closer to 60 if you budget a couple of the pricier staples. I don't know that it's guaranteed to spike. I'm gonna go ahead and play this and put a non-resource on top of my deck. I think the life total is pretty important. It's 80. Okay. And like I said, probably close to a quarter of that is the Nameless Draughts that I'm playing and the Runebinds. You definitely don't need the Nameless Draughts, and you probably don't need the Runebinds. One of the things too that's a big selling point for me in Hex is that the ladder is free to play like in most of these digital card games, which means if you pick up a constructed deck that's competitive, you can just play as much as you want on the ladder without putting any more money into Hex and kind of get a feel for the game without spewing money in leagues or something like that. Drago Control is one of my favorites. It's so great. I love just like doing all my things on my opponent's turn. Just all I want to do in life. Ooh, this card's really sweet. So Runic Upheaval says, draw a card. Then if the card you drew was a resource, this card modifies that new card to say, when you play this, deal damage. And then this card has Runic. So it does its thing twice. So basically, it's card advantage that's also a burn spell, which I am all about. My champion draws 2 cards and then discards a card at random, which is why I have the Nameless Draughts in here. This card buries the top 3 cards of my opponent's deck, which isn't particularly good, but it creates just like this random jank card for my hand that I could discard possibly to my champion power. So I'm gonna go ahead and Runic Upheaval here after I've blocked. And what this does is it lets me make my candle bigger because it has Illuminate 1, so now my 2/2 is gonna eat their 1/1. Winter's Grasp, that's rude. All right, my candle is gone. I did actually make enough to offset that. So this is a resource here that's similar to Prison. I really like Lantern's Line. There aren't really Prison decks in Hex because in general, I think Prison decks are kind of crap game design and they stay away from those type of effects. There's Empress of Ice is probably the closest thing to a Prison style deck, and there isn't really a competitive Empress deck in Standard right now. Hey look, there's another Candlelight. We play 4 copies of this card in my deck. So this one's going to get to blast something for 6, and then all of my actions will have Illuminate 2, which means I'll either get to make 2 candles or make all of my candles twice as, or 2+2+2 larger. So they're going to attack with this. Before it blocks, I'm going to blast their face with Candlelight, which makes that. Block it up. Don't want them to draw cards, so I'm going to go ahead and blast this. Opponent packs it in. They're just not beating double Candlelight. Double Candlelight is so hard to go over the top of. So my opponent's deck is kind of in a weird spot because they're a control deck, but they generate a bunch of little troops. So I think Scars of War, so this is our sweeper that our control deck plays. It's a quick action that deals 2 damage to every troop and then modifies those troops so the damage isn't removed from them at end of turn, which is sweet because it lets you like Scars of War 4 defense things early and then like combine them with Return to Cinder later. So I definitely don't want these. I want this Runic Riddles. I think I want these extra Verdict of the Ancient Kings. Dingle's not very good. I probably want my own Psychic Ascension. Probably want Runebind and Discombobulate, maybe. I think I don't want all 4 of these Scars of War. Oh, I don't need I don't need Sabretooth. That card's really bad in this matchup, actually. Maybe I want a couple just as win conditions, but yeah, keep the Scars of War over that. Actually, Cinder's probably just better than this, right? I guess this attacks later, but neither of these cards are stellar, but this seems fine. Yeah, and Hex is completely free to play. If you want it to be too, you can get in and grind it if you're into grinding these games instead of putting money into them. Just it's free to download on Steam. This game seems fine. Like not super exciting, but fine. It's got a Verdict and some Scars of War in it. So the biggest, and this is, I'm going to be upfront, the biggest problem with getting into Hex is you'll stop wanting to play Magic. Unless you, I should have just played the drop. That I punted. I should have just played the drop because I could have buried their Fate Weave. Potentially. I was just talking and thinking because I was being smug about it. But if you're someone that enjoys playing interactive TCGs, Hex has been pretty much knocked it out of the park for the last 2 years that I've been playing it, while Magic's been pretty floundering. Grab Ruby here, pass the turn. Yep. So this lets them look at the top 3 cards of the deck and then grab one of them. I want to Verdict that. Yeah, I'm just going to Verdict this, get my resources used. Oh, was it a slow duel? Okay. I didn't see. Yeah, either way, I should have Nameless Draughed them. Just like, why not? I don't really care if they make more things with this because I have Scars of War. And this time, my opponent just played an Ice. So now I'm going to play the Nameless Draught and bury the top card of their deck. So hopefully they don't get what they want next turn. Yeah, honestly, if you're someone that the only thing Magic has going for it that Hex doesn't is the fact that Magic is a paper game kind of makes it a little bit better of a social outlet if you want to like meet up with people. But like we have Hex LAN parties in my basement, so like I kind of get that out of Hex too. Cycle this Ayotochi coin. They don't currently have a tablet client. They're supposed to be having a tablet release sometime soon. I think their goal was Q1 next year, but they don't have any details out on that. Currently, it is just on Windows, OS X, Linux, and PlayStation 4. If you do play on the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 4 accounts, while you still play with people on the PC, the accounts are not cross-platform PlayStation 4 to computer just yet. I'm just going to go ahead and take a hit from these using my health total as a resource and play one of these Runic spells this turn. Halt. That's kind of brutal. Interrupt target quick card. Yep. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna play this out. I'm gonna put a guaranteed non-resource on top of my deck, because like I already have my 6th resource for Candlelight, so that's fine. Probably gonna just pull the trigger on the Scars of War this turn, just to clean this board up so they stop nugging me. Subscriber land party in my basement when, right? Ooh, that's pretty bad for us. Maybe I should have pulled the trigger on this sooner. So, Consult the Talons says has an ability called Mobilize, so it costs 7, and you can exhaust 3 troops you control to make it cheaper. And for every troop you exhaust, it becomes 2 cheaper. So, probably should have killed just the 2 of these. It is Mac compatible, and in fact, they have a testing client for Linux as well. I'm streaming from a Linux computer now. Alright, I'm just going to Scars of War again here just in case they have another consult. Because I'm assuming since they fought over that last one, I'm going to Runebind this Verdict. They must have another Mobilize card if they're fighting over these. I just want to get these out of the way. And like, clearing out their interrupts here is good for us because then our Candlelight's likely to resolve. And then once our Candlelight resolves, we can snowball the game pretty hard usually. Discombobulate's not bad. I'm probably just going to try and go for it and like upstairs this Candlelight at end of turn. Because like if this Candlelight resolves, the game basically ends on the spot. And my opponent's already played 1 Verdict and 1 Halt. So there's a chance, decent chance this resolves. And if it doesn't resolve, I've still got plenty of cards that are okay and we get a 1-for-1 here. Yeah, that just resolved. Sweet. Oh, that was a mistake. Yeah, I did. This is post board. They did board and halts. And halt's very good against me, right? Like my entire deck is quick. Runic Riddles here. So this card is gas, but I think I'd rather have card advantage right now. This deals 3 damage to an opposing champion or troop, and if you hit the opponent with it, it interrupts every action on the chain with cost 3 or less, which is kind of hot. That being said, I think I want to just generate more card advantage here so I can snowball these candles really quickly. I would love a second Candlelight. Attack for 1. I think I'm going to Runic Upheaval next turn as opposed to jamming the second Candlelight because I have this Discombobulate, I'm only 1 resource away from protecting this Candlelight with it. And like, we're already kind of in the driver's seat here, so... They have an interrupt, they probably want to stop that one. I would love another candle. And we hit the 9th Shard here. Another Runic Upheaval, God bless. I feel like this Ruby Sapphire deck is really favored in a lot of these more controlling mirrors. So, if you're thinking about Hex in terms of Magic Light, or just as an extension of Magic, I could see that being frustrating, but honestly, it's a different game, right? So like, for those of you that are new watching, what Terminator is referring to is in Hex, you can only respond to triggers that have targets. So if a trigger just says like, this deals damage to everything, it's not going to, what's the word I'm searching for? It's not going to let you respond to it because it doesn't target specific things. Well, now all my things have Illuminate 2s. This game is probably over. It's your Stifling Sting. This game is very over. It is like a thinking man's burn deck, JW. That's a great way to put it. In fact, it's called burn at the top there. For a reason. They're very dead. Just every action I play makes 2 candles. I'm gonna Stifling Sting their face, which if this resolves, it'll illuminate and then counter this. All right, you have a Runebind, that's pretty good. All right, get to recast both of these. Now these ones don't illuminate because when a card stops being a rune, it what's the word I'm searching for? It no longer when a card stops being a rune, it reverts itself, so it kind of goes back. Oh, this says when you play this. Oh, yep, this is just lethal. So I drew this with Runic Upheaval. So it is a trigger on it. When I play it, it deals damage to a champion or troop equal to its cost. Yeah, but again, that's a trigger that doesn't target, so you can't respond. Hex is consistent, you just can't respond to triggers that don't target. No, actually, Hex has a non-rotating format called Immortal, and they have Immortal weeklies that happen twice a week. You can find out which day a week they happen on the form calendar, and then there is an Immortal queue as well where you can earn tickets in there, and when you earn enough tickets every other month, there is the Immortal Championship that's actually happening this Sunday that you can win a pretty significant amount of store credit for Hex Primal, as well as some exclusive in-game alternate arts. Yes, you can interrupt all spells. I'm talking, it's only triggers. So like if a troop says, like an example of a card that was a sweeper-esque effect that you couldn't respond to, there was a card that said whenever you gain a ruby threshold, but like basically play a red resource, it deals 1 damage to every troop in play, and you can't respond to that trigger because that trigger doesn't target in Hex. So if your opponent played a ruby resource and you had a guy that you could pump up, you can't pump it up. But in general, any actual cards that are played out, they go on the chain in the middle and both players get a round of priority to pass back and forth with it. Basically, I just don't like Darkheart. You should play some more Hero Falls and Into the Unknowns. I think we're just going to queue up one more match with this deck tonight. I'm kind of beat since I played the PTQ today, but I will... if you're interested in more Hex, we do Hex for a little while after the MTGO streams on Tuesday and Thursday, and we do all Hex all morning on Wednesdays and Fridays. Is there any way to stop a creature's ability? There aren't any stifle type effects in Hex currently. I think at some point we might see something like that, but there isn't currently counter and activated ability like we have in Magic. All right, got one more here to queue up. Opponent's playing Cassia again here, so it could be the Diamond Sapphire deck. There's also a Ruby Diamond aggressive Candles deck that sees play as well. Either way, if a hand has a playable Scars of War in the opener, we're probably going to snap it off. This hand's okay. I guess Dingle's okay. If they're playing the Ruby Diamond Candles, Dingle's fine. We lost the coin flip. Yeah, I think this is keepable. It needs a second Ruby threshold, but I've got 2 ice to Fate Weave with. Also, if my opponent's playing the Ruby Diamond Candles deck, that deck leans on ice a lot, and we can Nameless Draught them on one. Yep. So it could still be either of the 2 Candles decks. What you got? What you got? What you got, opponent? Alright, I'm just gonna go ahead and play this Ruby Ice out here and Fate Weave a Shard to the top of my deck because I want to try and hit a second for my Candlelights and my Scars of War later. Cockatrice is a card that's really good against control. In fact, these Nameless Draughts that are in my deck, Cockatrice is part of the reason they're in here, because just like creating these extra random drops of chaos in my hand to like buffer me from effects like Cockatrice seems really reasonable. Looks like they are playing the Ruby Diamond Candles deck. The sockets decks are a lot of fun. They're very powerful. The Ruby Sapphire sockets has been putting up a lot of good results in the bashes as well. Sweet. I'm not going to play the Well Out just yet because I want to get my first Sapphire before I get the second Ruby, since I have this Dingle to hold up in case they have like a troop to play out this turn. I could have a Scion or an Acolyte of Flame. If you're interested in getting into Hex 2 and you don't want to spend a whole lot, I keep a list of budget Hex decks here. Kindle Kit. This Exhaust to Illuminate 1. That's fine, right? I can just return to Cinder this. Zap that one. Zoop. Some right on out of there. Now that I've drawn plenty of resources, have you played Eternal card game? Yeah, I played a little bit of Eternal card game. I actually have a review of it on my personal blog. The gameplay in Eternal card game was fine, but I just hit the roadblock that I hit with a lot of these digital card games, which is like, I'm not really interested in grinding a whole bunch to get into the game, and the fact that there's no secondary market for me, just like buy a deck directly. Like, I played it, the limited was reasonable, and like I put like $40 into getting a decent constructed deck, but then I got bored of playing that constructed deck, and I was only going to get 25% value if I ground it back down, and I was just like, this is just way too much money for something I'll never get back out of it. Like, I don't mind dumping 100 or even 200 or 300 bucks into a trading card game, because like that's kind of like an investment, right? Like, I could sell this back out. It's not just like money gone, but like dumping $300 into a single video game where I just put it in and it's gone forever, I can't really justify that to myself. That's pretty good. So I'm assuming this is just going to illuminate, make these candles larger. Yep. They've got 3 of them out, so you're going to start growing up. Hopefully we hit Scars of War here soon. I'm going to get to hit my champion power next turn. They're reading Runic Upheaval, I assume. This card's not terribly popular until I started playing it in this deck. It's weird, I thought I heard music playing. Well, the good news is, even if we brick on Scars of War, I'll be able to Sabretooth one of these and then hold up Discombobulate, and Discombobulate will be able to shoot something as well, which is nice. It's a Stifling Sting. Okay, I'm going to play this out, and then I'm going to hit my champion power here. So lets me draw 2 and then discard 1 at random. If we get a resource on these, we'll get to draw another one with this rune. I lost my Candlelight, which kind of sucks. I'm going to shoot one of these candles. Need to preserve my life total a little bit here. Oh, you know what? I think the Runic Upheaval drew the one I didn't look. I had 2 Sabretooths, and I think Runic Upheaval drew one. I just put the one that Runic Upheaval drew back into my deck by mistake. Hopefully they play something for us to Discombobulate here, because then we'll get to shoot one of these with this trigger. Well, this, they have waxed on. We're getting a little bit of trouble here. What's going on, Super? So this lets me shoot their thing here. Whoa, holy shit. That is a main deck riposte. Wow, that's a beating. All right, well, we're dead, so that doesn't matter that we used the wrong cat. So this card grabs an action off the chain and puts it into my opponent's hand, and we would get it back normally. Oh, my trigger's still there. That's sweet. Okay, so they have a 6/6. Okay, that's sweet. And then I'm gonna get my Discombobulate back later. Sweet, because that is the trigger from Runic Upheaval on it. And now this cat plus this Stifling Sting can kill this Candlekin. So my Discombobulate had a trigger on it from Runic Upheaval. And the Runic Upheaval trigger killed the candle before the Choir of Lumos resolved. Because the trigger from Runic Upheaval doesn't require the card to resolve. It's a trigger that happens when you play the card. Sweet. It won't have the trigger anymore, but I still get the Discombobulate back. I'm aware Riposte reverts. Alright, so this plus the Stifling Sting can kill this. Because one of the cats that I drew was also modified by Runic Upheaval. So one of the cats in my deck right now has the extra line of text on it. When you play this, deal damage equal to its cost to something. Wow, that's a beating. My opponent's deck has a bunch of cards. Can we kill this card? I can't, right? Because, like, if I cat this, they're going to get 7 candles. I'm actually just ranched here. Because, like, we drew the cat, but this says, when this is dealt damage, summon that many Candlekin. I have like 1 Runebind in my main deck that can answer this right now. Alright, need one of my Runebinds. Oh, Scars of War is not going to do it. Man, that Riposte really got us into the Livanth. Ranged Hidden Valley style, right? Alright, so Dingle seems good. I don't actually know. This doesn't seem very good. Some Runic Riddles are bad. Candlelight seems medium. Yeah, we need to follow up the cap. That's exactly what we needed to do. We just needed one more turn. Into the Unknown provides a clean answer to that because we can pick it up. I think Verdict's usually good in this matchup. Bring in the extra Runebind as well, probably. I guess Runebind's not actually good in this matchup. I'm gonna leave an extra Runic Riddles in. God, that was gross. Normally I don't really like Dingle in this matchup, but with the cat, with the dragon in there, I kind of have to leave it. I'm gonna split these Sabretooths with these Return to Cinders too. See how that feels. I think ideally a lot of times we're killing their candles before they get too large. That's not too bad. We put up a pretty good fight that game for the fact that I didn't see Scars of War at all. If we see Scars of War, we completely blow them out most of the time. That sounds fine. Put a guarantee. You basically want to try and guarantee you hit your first 4 shard drops in this deck every game. So I'm going to put a guaranteed 4th on top of my deck here. So one of the things I think you want to make sure you're doing against the Candle deck, if you don't have a sweeper that you're lining up to blow them out with, you want to make sure you're spending your removal killing all of their candles every turn, because if you're killing their candles, they're not eventually going to grow them up, and then they're all just like these crappy 1/1s, right? So now that I have 4 guaranteed, I'm actually just going to go ahead and play this and weave a non-resource to the top of my deck. Because outside of Candlelight, we don't have anything that costs more than 4. Yep. Kitty cat. Waxed on. It's weird timing on that. This is quick, so like, are they going to turn this into a 3/3? Either way, I'm going to go ahead and discombobulate this. This interrupts their card, and then we both generate a new random card that we have to meet the thresholds to play. Bottled Lightning's actually pretty good in this deck. It's a speed and has +1 power for each action in my crypt, and my crypt generally builds up a lot of actions in it. I think I'm probably just going to cat this next turn. So again, keeping their, since I don't have access to Scarzivore right now, I want to just keep their their total troop countdown, candle countdown. What do you have, opponent? It's not a dragon yet. Dragon costs 5. Which is good for us. I don't have a good answer to a dragon at this point in my life. I'm like, sure. Let's send it upstairs. I can appreciate that. That must be the random card Discombobulate generated for them. Yep. You see when I mouse over it, it arrows to my crypt. So. I'm gonna draw for the turn. We get Scarzivore to kill these. Dingle. And I was gonna ram the Bottled Lightning down their throat, but now that we drew the Dingle, I'm just gonna go ahead and pass here, because Dingle gives us a nice clean answer to the dragon. I did pick this battle board. I like the Seaside battle board. No, I don't think so. I guess working towards 3 Ruby thresholds is good, because Fireball's pretty okay hit. Triple Sapphire threshold lets you potentially generate Astral Sight, but in reality it's pretty minimal. And again, a lot of the time Discombobulate doesn't generate really quality cards, but just having random other cards laying around makes our Sharpshooter Sahas ability just more potent. I'm gonna return to Cinder this guy in response. Oh, that was a mistake. This has Summoning Sickness, right? As Troop Trauma, that's why it's got the fog on it. So, I Cindered the wrong one here. Again, it's late after a long day. We're riposting my return to Cinder. This must mean that they're turning these into 3/3s, right? Go ahead and Runebind this guy. He'll get reverted when he gets replayed later, so we'll turn back into a 1/1, so it means I can kill it with the Return to Cinder still. There's a Return to Cinder's gonna flip back to my hand here, yep. Those main deck riposts are nasty. Really kind of need to hit one of our 4-cost draw cards. Really looking to kind of like generate some actual card advantage here this game. Kind of floundering around in that respect. I'm going to cycle this resource. I need a 6/1 at some point, but I really just kind of need some action right now. Put my champion power. Hopefully we don't lose this Dingle. Ding, ding, ding. But non-resource on top of my deck here. And then next turn we can play the Bottled Lightning with the Dingle up. Again, my goal is to just try and not get hosed by a Livanth. think that's okay. I think I just need to like hold this for live anth. This Bottled Lightning coming down next turn is a 0-6. It's going to hold the fort down pretty well. Sorry, it won't be a 0-6. It'll be a 3-6. Hey, what's going on, Jisaki? Hey, Allie with the host. Logan and folks coming over from Allie's stream. Catching us right at the tail end here. This is going to be my last match of the night. It's kind of late. Alright, so they have a 5-5. Bottled Lightning's still going to be able to hold that one back, so it'll be a 3-6. Hopefully we can find a copy of Candlelight here. That would be ideal. Their Dingle's not terrible. You just kill them faster. If you're running into the Constance deck a lot, you should put the Scouring Lights back in your reserves. Last time I updated the reserves in that deck, the Constance deck really wasn't terribly popular. Should always adjust for the decks you're playing against. They have another way to illuminate. They're going to be able to get this to a 6-6, which is kind of scary. Means they can attack through my Bottled Lightning. If they attack with everything here, I get to eat a candle and take 7 down to 8. That's a beating. I say if they have another Flame Lick, I'm in trouble, but I think if they had another Flame Lick, they'd have double zapped my Bottled Lightning, right? In trouble if they have like a Waxed On. A little unfortunate that I didn't Dingle this, and then we drew the second Dingle the next turn. Just wanted to make sure we didn't die to a live Anth off the top, like we did last game. It's a pretty good last card to have. I think that just ends us. I wonder if this deck wants a couple of Dread Ends in the board. I don't know. I think actually the answer is that I just want to draw my Scars of War. And again, we were so scared of the dragon that like I boarded in this extra Dingle and these Dingles just rotted in my hand. Like if one of these had been a Verdict, we'd have been okay this game. It's a chump block here. And return this. I don't even know what our outs are at this point. I don't think we have any. This is a 9-9. I can kill this 6-6, but the 9-9 is just way too large. All right, folks, that's going to be it for me for the night. I'm going to go ahead and call it. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out. And I'll be back tomorrow afternoon with some more Magic. I'll be back on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with Hex, as always. Peace, folks, and have a good night.